All right, so what are we talking about today? Well, it is this book, which I just finished, called The Mind's Past. Amazing book, very interesting. Um, a few key points I want to talk about. I think they're important and I think they can be helpful in our own life. I think there's a broad takeaway from this book that we can all implement, at least to some extent, in our life. So, what's the book about? What is The Mind's Past about? It's broadly trying to understand why we have this consciousness, right? What makes us different from a rabbit or a fox, right? What makes us sentient beings? What makes us able to think? And the conclusion it came to, the book comes to through psychological studies, was this interpreter in the left hemisphere of our brain. So our hemisphere, or our brain rather, is split into two hemispheres. The right hemisphere, and the left hemisphere. Right. So the right hemisphere, in it is what does it do? Right. They have the same amount of neurons, both of them. Right. The difference, however, is the right hemisphere is not thinking. It's not. Well, it depends on what you consider thinking, obviously. But the right hemisphere is not doing complex computation. Right. It's not doing interpretation of our world, is what I should say. What it is doing, however, is it sort of is like an animal, like a fox, right? It's inputting, taking in stimulus, and then causing some sort of action, right? So it's the most animalistic, if you were to say that we're not animals, but in the maybe more colloquial sense of animalistic, it's the more animalistic part of our mind. So it's giving us natural responses which we ourselves cannot control. How they found this, how they studied this, was split brain patients whose mind is the corpus callosum, which is the part of the brain here which connects the two hemispheres, right? Like it's a bridge between the two hemispheres, which allows them to communicate to each other. And so people with severed corpus callosums, which is for epilepsy usually, or for people with seizures, um, I should say this as well, right? The right hemisphere controls the left hand. The left hemisphere controls the right hand. It's, you know, and so what they did was they split the field of vision, and then they asked people questions, right? And so what they're doing is they're asking only the right hemisphere this question, asking only the left hemisphere this question. And what they found was the right hemisphere just acts. It just acts. However, the left hemisphere interprets the world. So what would happen was they would ask, choose these pictures based on this information. And so the left hand would choose one, which is connected to the right hemisphere. The right hand would choose the other. And then the left hemisphere, which controls speaking as well, then would interpret what these two results meant, right? It would create a story about what these two results meant, even though that story was objectively false because the right hemisphere had a natural reason for choosing this particular response. Sort of a convoluted way to explain this. The point being, our right hemisphere naturally responds to things, and our left hemisphere interprets the way we respond. And it's easy to think, oh, well, I'm not a split brain person, right? My corpus callosum is, I don't know if it's completely intact, but hopefully it's completely intact. It's at least working to some extent. But the point being, when we have natural responses, right? Anger, sadness, fear, all these things, it's because of the right hemisphere of our brain naturally responding. And then what the left hemisphere, the interpreter in the left hemisphere of our brain does is it says, oh, we're angry. Why? It asks this question, why are we angry? And then immediately it comes up with an answer. Now this is where we run into trouble. Our right hemisphere is always going to react based on some sort of previous stimulus. So throughout our life, we build up these connections between ideas, between things and other ideas, and this and working out, this and exercise, this and the stuff I put in it. Ooh, sort of gross, but I don't know what else. Books and reading. Certainly, people who have, maybe an adult who abused them as a child, they associate then, like I found, certainly, well, I don't want to get too in, but like footsteps sometimes, at least for me, can trigger reactions, right, that are outside of my control, sort of naturally. And so, what does this mean for us? It means when we have emotions, it's never that the emotion is wrong. Emotions are never wrong. Your emotions are always right. Always right in the sense that they always are an association between a thing, something that happened to you, something coming towards you, something that happened around you, a person, anything, a thing, and a previous experience you've had. Right? So in that sense, your emotions are always telling you some sort of information. The problem is, in our world today, it's no longer, most of these things are no longer detrimental to us in the sense that they're life-threatening. Yet we still have these natural responses, and we create these natural connections, which are life-threatening urgency. And the reason we do that is because our brain is not meant and is not created and is not developed to be somebody who has a computer. It's not to be somebody in the modern world. We have not been human beings, existed as human beings rather, in this modern world for more than, depending on how you quantify this modern world, 100, 200 years maybe, right? But certainly not with the comforts we have till the last 50, 100 years has life expectancy exploded, right? And so what does this mean for us? It means we still have these vastly urgent connections in our mind, and yet in reality, the effect is not as detrimental as it once was. So certainly we'll take the example of the person who has the fear, right, of these footsteps walking down the hallway, right? Right now, there's no danger for me. I'm no longer in any danger. There's nothing to fear. Yet, at one time, to me, it was, well, maybe, whatever, right? But it may not have been life-threatening, or maybe it was closer to life-threatening. Now, however, there's no actual thing to fear, right? There's no danger, and yet we still have this natural response because it's ingrained in who we are. So, if we look back in our past, right? Before it was, I hear a rustle in the bush. Uh-oh, that could be, a mountain lion that come out. Maybe you see a mountain lion on the road. So you're never going to take this road again because you have an association with this path and danger. So we're not going to take this path again. However, now, danger does not mean the same thing. We need to understand it more and be able to push through it because we're not going to die. I think that's something fundamental we need to believe, is with our fear, with our sadness, with everything, we're not going to die. It's very rare in this world that the thing that's happening to you is going to kill you. And so the way we can live better lives is by realizing I'm not going to die. This is not life-threatening. This isn't going to kill me at all. And so I can live a more effective life by then saying, okay, taking this first step. The first step is I feel the fear, anger, sadness. Oh no. Ugh, right? Then we're okay. I'm sad, right? You can, right? And what you would have done, what you should have done if you were a caveman, is if you felt anger, you should attack. Of course you should attack, because you're angry. There's nothing that should be stopping you, because, right? Because my life's being threatened, right? If you feel fear, you should run. That's what the caveman was like, but we're not like that anymore. And so when we feel these feelings, we don't want to be in the feeling. We want to move as quickly and as consciously as we can to thinking about it, to using our left hemisphere to try to interpret, try to understand, to what extent, what information rather, this feeling, this natural emotion, which is okay, which is good, this natural emotion is telling me. And so, whenever I hear these footsteps now, right, coming down the hallway, I still feel this anxiety, but immediately it's not, I don't run or hide. I don't go under the covers and try to hide that way, pretend I'm asleep or something like that. Instead, I think to myself, oh, okay. Remember, Kai, you're not here anymore. You're okay. You're fine. You're not gonna die. This is not the same situation. If I walked out that door, nothing there would be dangerous to me. And so we need to, the first step to overcoming these continually reinforced stimulus and responses is to recognize that that it's okay, rather, to not feel this response in accordance with the stimulus, right? If I was still in the situation, or if you're, like, if every time you walk out your door, you get slapped, right? Slapped by this guy. Well, it's pretty natural then to continue to feel like I'm afraid to go out my door, right? If every time you get slapped. But then if you stop being slapped, well, then you got to start realizing, okay, there no longer needs to be this fear of the door, right? It's natural and it's good when there is this problem there, right? When there is this thing that we should be fearing, but it's not good and it's not helpful once we are out of that situation. And I think a lot of times we feel like the situation we're in is one of the very, very, very few that is life-threatening, that is completely all-destroying, and I feel nothing, and I feel, ooh, right? And yet in reality, we are not there. We are not there. I think a lot of our fears and a lot of these associations were made during childhood and are associated with childhood is because, as a child, things are more threatening to you, right? Things feel bigger. You have far less control, far less power, right? As an adult with money and with a home, you can do plenty of things, right? You can call police if you need help. If you're in such a dire situation, you can leave. As a child, you don't get that choice. And so you're stuck in a situation often where you continually have to repeat the same stimulus and response, right? Stimulus, dad comes home, response, pain or hurt or whatever it is, right? But as an adult, when you are in situations where there are people like that, you can leave. You should leave. You should find a better world, right? Or find a better life for yourself. And so we need to realize we're no longer in this situation we were once in. Our life is no longer threatened. We can leave now if this situation does arise. And so gradually what you have to do is start to disassociate this stimulus and response. And that starts with recognizing that the stimulus response isn't working and it's not needed anymore, right? You have to recognize that you don't need this connection. But to think, though, just because I recognize it, it's going to go away, that's not how it's going to work. You have to work to continuously sever the stimulus and responses. Heuristic, as they say in your mind. You have to consciously work at updating your subconscious. I know it seems weird to say, but you have to consciously think, this isn't going to hurt me. Nothing is wrong here. You have to consciously be thinking that for your subconscious, right? This right hemisphere to incorporate that data, to take that in. If you just try to grit and bear it, nothing's going to happen. You're going to, because it is continuing to be, the more you accept the feeling of fear, accept the feeling that's a response to this stimulus, the more you accept it, the more you are reinforcing it. So if you don't actively tell yourself it's not real, you're actually perpetuating it. You're making it stronger because What the mind is saying then is, oh, this is still the case right now, right? And so when you just let that emotion go, right? You're reinforcing the stimulus, right? And you're making your mind say, this is still the situation I'm in. And so first we need to consciously realize we're not in that situation. Second, we need to take action to actively think about disassociating these ideas. Realize I've sort of explained the same idea a couple times, but I want to get it across because I think emotion is not wrong. None of your emotions are wrong. All of your emotions, in fact, are more right than most of your thoughts, right? All of your emotions are more correct than most of your thoughts because they're real. A lot of the time, psychologists like to say people are sort of bad at like, and basically they say we're stupid because we make mistakes sometimes. But we make mistakes when you put us in a lab and you ask us a question about statistics, something which is not natural to us. However, in the real world, we're very, very good, right? Because we've lived for so long. We've succeeded for so long. So of course we're very good when it comes to things that are real life. And so by becoming very good, in this process of becoming very good, we've also gotten very good at saving our own life, basically. And that means we create these false associations. All right, well, that was the main point. I want to make sure we got across that all of your emotions are true, all of your emotions are valid and very real. They're telling you something real about your situation, and it is our job to interpret that and realize and think logically about it and ask yourself truly, is this correct for the situation? That's all you really want to start asking yourself is, don't be angry. Don't be angry. Think, why am I angry? Move your mind is right here. Prefrontal cortex, right? All right here. Back here. All angry stuff. All emotion stuff back here. I mean, and other stuff too. There's a lot of stuff in the brain. But prefrontal cortex is going to be our logical thinking, our rational thinking. And so we want to move as quickly as we can from back here, sadness, anger, all these feelings, to up here. Why am I feeling this way? Is this emotion rational? Does this make sense in this situation? If so, feel it. Go after it, right? And often the times when it is real, you don't get the choice. When it's real, you're not going to be able to think, right? When somebody attacks you, you shouldn't be thinking, is this emotion, am I right to feel angry right now? No, you're just going to be angry and you're going to hit them. And that's cool. And that's right. Or you're going to be afraid and you're going to run. Both of those are cool, right? There's no need to question that. However, most situations in your life where you're feeling these emotions are not the ones that are life-threatening. And so recognize that. Recognize, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay. What does this mean? Why am I doing emotions? Why am I feeling this way? And if you can't in the moment, then at the end of your day, go back. Why was I so upset with that person? Why was I so sad in that moment? Why was I so angry? Just think about it. That's all you got to do. Just try to understand, and the truth will be revealed, hopefully, and you'll be able to sever some of these associations you've created and reinforced over years of your life. So I hope this helps. I hope it was helpful. Sort of didn't talk about the book that much, but this is sort of from the book. Not really. They didn't talk about this, but it's a good reason for me to talk about what I just did. So good book though. I don't think anybody has really read it because there's like no reviews of it, but I liked it a lot. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please comment something. I very much enjoy when people share their thoughts. I think it's very interesting. That's why. Not the only reason I do this. I do it mainly for myself because I think it's fun. But I want to learn what other people think too. So let me know. All right. Thank you so much.